Ezekiel considers mental illness as idiotism. He looks at his younger brother and his grandson, September, as having traces of idiotism. You may be wondering at the naming convention, September. September is the grandson of Ezekiel in this story known as December by Filemon Liyambo. In this collection of short stories known as A Silent Song, he has a sister known as December, and this sister is mentally ill. Mental illness or mental health awareness is a pertinent topic or issue that has caught the eye of KICD, and we now study it in some of the set books. We had it in Memories We Lost, and now we have it in A Silent Song. December by Filemon Liyambo from Namibia is about, well, the plight of mentally ill patients, the ignorance and the mystery shrouding mental health in Africa especially. We're going to look at ignorance, and this ignorance mainly is highlighted by Ezekiel Shikongo, also known as Tateluku, and that is December's grandfather and also the grandfather to September. September and December are brother and sister. December is 2 years older than September. If you're wondering about the names, well, blame Silas Shikongo, their father, who has a taste for the unconventional. He likes naming his children after the month they were conceived. Strange. His last 4 children are named after the months in which they were conceived. Well, let's look at the ignorance that Ezekiel Shikongo portrays in regard to mental health or mental illness. Whenever his grandson September is absent-minded, he considers it traces of idiotism, and also he forbids December from eating chicken after that mishap at the garden when she hacked the brother, and then with a hoe while working at the mother's garden. And then he also disapproves Silas's naming convention. He says that the idiotism would rub off on his grandchildren. And he also insists that December had been bewitched. So that is part of the ignorance. He is happy when his grandson September goes away to the UK for 2.5 years to study, because he does not particularly like September because of his idiotism, absent-minded. He calls Joseph's illness idiotism. Joseph is his younger brother. Then he has a strange dream about Joseph. When he's buried with his secret. And we are left wondering, what was Joseph eating in Ezekiel's dream? And why did he forbid December from eating chicken? Another thing that shows his ignorance is that he takes December to the healer. And we know what happens when she goes to the healer. She comes back very thin and skeletal. The healer was trying to starve whatever it was, the illness out of her. From December, this is what we know, that mental illness runs in this family. One, Joseph, that is Ezekiel's brother, has mental illness. He's always, when September is absent-minded, Ezekiel remembers Joseph, who also exhibited similar symptoms, right? And he says that Joseph started losing track of time in his teens, and the days of the week were a blur to him. Ezekiel called it idiotism. He thought that Joseph was only teasing, and he thought that the teasing would pass. But Joseph lost himself, and he got lost for a month. He was found by a search party by a river, and he was eating something mysterious, which we don't really know. And towards the end of the book, towards the end of the story, the elders ask Ezekiel what his brother was eating. Silas Shikongo, that is Ezekiel's son, had a taste for the unconventional. He named his last 4 children after the months in which they were conceived. His friends in public would tell you that he was rebellious. But if you asked them the same question in his absence, they would say he was an idiot. They thought him a fool. His father, Ezekiel, was against the naming convention. He was afraid that his son's idiotism would rub off on his grandchildren. December was born in September, and September was born in July. So Silas did not really understand the concept of time. So he also suffers from the mental illness, or what Ezekiel calls idiotism. Idiotism is a term that was used in the past to mean severe mental retardation or severe mental illness. Now, December is Ezekiel's favorite grandchild or granddaughter. When she was 6, she injured the brother September with a hoe. That was an unfortunate accident, but all the stories that have been told about that accident have always been exaggerated. So what we know is that after that, she was forbidden by the grandfather from eating chicken. Then later on, she was admitted to a psychiatrist ward. She just fell apart. She just fell apart slowly. You know, she was normal, then she started falling apart slowly, then all at once. She had problems with the classmates. She would have cat fights and name calling. And she would walk half naked and she would talk to herself. The brother felt really sad and hurt, and he felt that people don't go crazy overnight. And he wondered if there was a plausible explanation as to why this affliction befell his sister. Now, Ezekiel insists that she was bewitched, and he juxtaposes December's condition with that of Joseph, and he feels that there are some other forces that are at work. Because December goes abruptly from a stellar student to a psychiatrist patient. And this old man believes that, well, she must have been bewitched. Well, a few months before finishing secondary school, that is when this unfortunate illness befalls her. And she was a fairly good student who was going to enroll at a TTC. Now, when we look at December, we find that she's tired of being in hospital, and she's tired of her condition, and she just wants to go home. When the brother visits her in hospital, he finds that her hair is scattered like patchy grass. Her eyes were shining, and she looked gaunt. Her lips were swollen, as if she had walked into a wall again, which means she had walked into a wall in the past. The last time she looked this gaunt and this thin is when the grandfather Ezekiel took her to a healer. She hears voices in her head. That is typical of a mental illness. And Ezekiel Ezekiel is adamant that this girl was bewitched. And when this affliction befell the girl, the mother is heartbroken. She's more heartbroken than when the husband passed on. Well, and of course, December's younger brother, September, is hurt, basing on the fact that life is moving on, but for her, life is at a pause because she cannot differentiate reality and fiction. Finally, these are some of the trials that are caused by mental illness. September is absent-minded, and this absurdity is compared to traces of idiotism. December hurts or injures September with a hoe. Then there are some absurd traditions where December is forbidden from eating chicken. December is confined to a psychiatric facility. Then she has problems with her classmates that includes cat fights and name calling and walking naked on the street and talking to herself. There's a lot of ignorance surrounding mental health illness. Ezekiel blames it on witchcraft. Joseph gets lost for a month. December is tired of the hospital and her condition. December's hair is scattered like patchy grass. Her eyes shine. She looks gaunt. Her lips are swollen as if she had walked into a wall, which means it's possible for a mentally ill person to injure or hurt themselves. She's taken to a healer and she comes back looking thin or skeletal. She hears some voices in her head. The mother is left heartbroken and she even ages prematurely and very fast. And while other people's lives move on, December's life remains on a pause. And then there's this mystery about the chicken. And there's this mystery about what Joseph was eating by the river. And Ezekiel is buried with these secrets. So mental health is shrouded in mystery. Thank you. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and please watch the videos that you're going to recommend.